Strengthening of the tree ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Norma Harris, followed by Verrill Thaxton and Ricky Brown.
Good afternoon. I'm Norma Harris from District 12, and I too want to speak on behalf of trees. It seems after hearing so much about our human resources and what we need in the city regarding people that you'd think the trees were not important, but they are. We understand that you have many so-called competing needs that you have to address in your jobs here, but perhaps they don't need to compete. The assets that come from buildings can be easily quantified. It's tougher to put a monetary value onto mature trees, but trees are of equal importance, and building planners do have the skills needed to respond to a building site and design while responding to what is there. Trees are worthy of being seen as an asset rather than an obstacle. The tree ordinance is the only way we have of speaking on behalf of the trees and their value to us who live here. I want to thank you all for understanding that the present ordinance needs to be strengthened, but the proposal that you are voting on today mostly just supports the status quo. In the meantime, we are rapidly losing our mature trees because they are being vastly undervalued. Their true worth is not being represented in a balanced way with regard to our important building development needs. Please give trees substantial weight as you balance the needs of our city. And once you pass the ordinance amendments that are proposed today, please take a bolder step. Please do it soon. Please work with a citizens group that has studied the situation.
Time has expired.
And make recommendations that I hope you will listen to. Thank you.
Next will be Verrill Thaxton, followed by Ricky Brown, and then Prophet Curtis Hairston.
Good afternoon. By the way, my name is Verrill Thaxton.
Oh, thank you for the correction.
Like Pharrell, the happy dance? Okay. But anyway, I am a resident of Antonio Lewis District. I spent 90 minutes in line voting. Today I am here to talk about the Atlanta Tree Ordinance. And I'm going to start by saying, Osio Agnali. I'm going to start by saying, Como esta? Hetipu, greetings. And the reason I'm going to start that way is that I want to talk from a universal perspective. At first, I was going to talk to you about why you should support a strong Atlanta tree ordinance. But then I decided to talk about, that I wanted to talk about how you should make your decision. And so Wise Man said, you use your heart to make your decision, and you use your mind to figure out how to implement that decision. And so that's one of the things I'm asking you to do. A wise man also said that in order to make a decision, you really have to have the experience and you have to have the understanding to make that decision. So, so what I want to say is that I submit that before you make your decision, go to a place where there are these old-growth trees. And I no longer want to call them old-growth trees. As a matter of fact, my son said, yes, old, I want to call
Time
them,
has expired.
oh. I'd just like a few more minutes.
I'm sorry, time has expired.
Okay. Well, after hearing about all of these rabble-rousers, I'm not going to leave right this minute.
I'm sorry, your time's expired. I'll have to cut your mic off if you continue.
That's okay.
2
You can
minutes.
cut off the mic.
That's fine.
I want to call these trees grandmother and grandfather trees because I believe that's how we need to relate to those trees.
Please escort the speaker from the podium, please. Time has expired.
Okay, and the last
2
thing I
minutes is
want to
code.
say, the last thing I would like to say is that I would like to invite you,
Thank you, ma'am. Time has expired. Out of respect for all speakers, time has expired.
I would like to invite all of you to come and take a look at these trees.
Ma'am, your time has expired.
Grandfather.
The time has expired. It is the code of the city. Thank you.
You know what? That other,
Thank you so much.
he was, I understand why he said what he said.
Ma'am, you've had your time.
You are not going to, no,
Ma'am,
I'm sorry. I usually don't get upset like this. But I waited
you have to be removed.
to vote.
Ma'am.
And this is how you treat us?
Your time has expired. Thank you. Next will be Ricky Brown, followed by Prophet Curtis Harrison and Margie McLeod. Ricky Brown's next.
Ricky Brown left.
Oh, Margie McLeod.
I'm going to be very short, very, very short. What I hear today is rent control, and Mama was going to talk about rent control. The solution, if y'all want to make it correct, we need rent control. That's the solution. You might not don't want to do it. I don't know who's landlord, but we're going to do this, and I'm not going away. Everything is going up, the rent going up, gas going up, food going up, but my paycheck. So please, y'all want a solution, rent control. I will see you again. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Next will be Prophet.
Well, I'm not finished, but I didn't know because I made it real fast.
Oh.
And y'all be blessed. Correct it. Y'all could correct this because what I hear, I couldn't believe it. Is this true, what he's saying? Yes. But make it correct. City of Atlanta need rent control because you're pushing the people out. And they're not taking Section 8 in City of Atlanta. Rent control. That's the answer.
Stop giving them permits to build.
Thank you. Next will be Prophet Curtis Harrison, followed by Devin Barrington Ward and James Davenport.
See, y'all not hearing what's going on. You can start the little 2 minutes. It used to be 3 minutes when I first started coming. I think it was 5. Now it's 3. Now it's 2. Now y'all ain't listening. So I listen well. I listen to God well. I hear from God. Like I said before, no justice, no peace. Write it down. No justice, no peace. Write it down. I listen to everybody today. But I'm gonna take time out to tell you what's happening to me in this city. I got $1.5 million. Okay, I was fired from Omni Hotel right down the street in Atlanta, Georgia. I was fired from Home 2 sites right there in Midtown, in your city, in the last 3 months. This person talking to me. I was fired from Hobnobs in Atlanta Station, in y'all districts. I stay in Buckhead. Ms. Shook, that's your district, and Ms. Norwood's district. What dog do this on the floor, on the street corners. It's your district. Now, I'm saying again, I was also fired from Jody D's. That's in Sandy Springs, and I think it has something to do for me coming to these meetings. But I'm not going to stop advocating for homeless black men, women, and children, where people are dying on your streets due to homeless. This is what happened to me. I got fired from Omni Hotel, right down the street. Last 2 months ago, I got fired for nothing, for being a black male. I got fired for being a Christian. That's what I got fired for. Now, if I get 20 guys like me with 20 microphones and go in front of that place and protest it, will I be wrong? Would that man be wrong? Would that woman be wrong? Would they be wrong for doing that? Because that's what y'all doing to us. Like I said before, no justice, no peace. No justice, let me start. No justice, because I start stuff. No peace. No justice, 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 no peace.
Next up will be Devin Barrington Ward. You'll have 4 minutes due to yielded time, then James Davenport and Catherine Kolb.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, members of the council. Devin Barrington Ward with the Black Futurist Group and Communities Over Cages, ATL. I'm not here today to talk about the jail, but I am here today to talk about another public safety issue, which is the crisis that's taking place with our young people. I was appalled, as many of us were, that we lost 2 young people on the streets of Atlanta at Atlantic Station. I was saddened because of the brazenness of the violence, but I was also saddened because I know that young people are our greatest resource. We just heard some of the tree advocates talk about how we are vastly undervaluing the trees in Atlanta, but we're also vastly undervaluing our young people. They are the roots of this city. They will sprout fruits that will feed Atlanta for generations to come. But they can't do that if they're in jail or if they're in a cemetery. And we all have to take responsibility for what is happening on our streets, in our council districts, in our neighborhoods, in our schools. It's all of our responsibilities. It's easy to say, oh, well, the parents should do this and do that. But we also are saying that, are we aware that we are dealing with parents who are in a city with the highest income inequality in the country? Those things are connected. Poverty is the greatest contributor to violence and death in our streets. What have each of you done? What have each of your colleagues done at Fulton County? What have each of your colleagues done at the state to make sure that statistic is not a year after year statistic? People were looking at it like it was brand new information. We have been on that list at least for the last 5 years, if not longer than that. You know, there are tons of ways to invest in young people, but I don't think a curfew is one of them. I think, yet again, it's another quick fix. It's a quick fix that doesn't speak to the systemic issue of violence in our communities. Right. That young people are leaving APS, that young people are leaving our rec centers, and they are not receiving the tools that they need to negotiate and resolve conflict on their own. Police officers can't do that. By the time 911 is called, it's too late. And so instead of a curfew, which council members are going to introduce an allocation for more conflict resolution services in our schools, in our rec centers, in our communities? Which council member is going to use y'all's skills of conflict resolution? This is conflict. Democracy is conflict. City council is conflict. Which one of you are going to reserve this chamber to bring in conflict resolution specialists that can teach young people how to resolve conflict and teach other young people how to do the same? Who's going to offer that? I know that's not the headline that might be the one that gets the most attention on the news because it's not as sensational, but it's the work that needs to be done. Which council member is willing to do that? I've already spoken with Council Member Bakhtari. I've spoken with Council President Shipman. I want to see more council members raise their hands and say, I will do that. Even if you're going to support the curfew, which I think won't do anything because young people are killing people during the day. We had last year, young people have a shootout at a pool, a city-owned pool, in the broad daylight. What would that curfew have done? Nothing. So I just want to say curfews aren't going to stop kids from killing kids. Conflict resolution is. APD said at your own presentation, 32% of the murders in Atlanta are connected to an ongoing dispute or beef that has yet to be resolved. They have no answer on how to fix that. You all have the purse strings.
Time has expired.
Y'all have the money. Y'all can fix it. Let's do the right thing.
Next will be James Davenport. Due to yielded time, you'll have 6 minutes, then Catherine Kolb and Victor Tate.
Hey, thank y'all for allowing me to be in your presence. First, giving honor to God, who I oftentimes call my conductor. I don't have a PhD, but I do have a GOD. I am James Davenport, president and founder of the Hit and Run Help Foundation. Most of you are familiar with what's going on. I thought I'd never say this in my life. I'm tired. They got a saying in prison saying, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Before I go any further, I beg you all to join in with Fulton County and assist in providing free Lyft rides for seniors. Just like I'm just talking to a dummy. As I told you before, y'all gonna wait till somebody enter a train and start shooting. So it happened. When it happens to an elderly person, I don't know what y'all gonna say. Next point, I made y'all aware of the situation I had with the police officer. Haven't had the MRI yet, but it's coming. Lastly, I saw the Public Safety Committee tape when Deron had Miss Charles before you all crying her heart out, saying that she called the police more than 30 times just to apprehend her son. Can you imagine a woman telling the police, come up, lock up my son? I was crying myself when I saw that. I immediately contacted DeWarren Robinson and said, put that young lady in touch with me. When I heard she had insurance, but it had not matured, first thing I did, I let her know. Call Mr. Willie Watkins. I gave her his personal phone number. I talked to this young lady for more than 45 minutes in our first conversation, advising her, telling her every time she's crying, all I can tell her, trust in God. Let me stop right here and when I said trust in God. I'm a member of the biggest gang in the world. Concerned Black Clergy had heard me say it this morning at a press conference. I am a member of the biggest, largest gang in the world. I became a gang member about 6 years old. I'm a member of God's army. You don't have to be jumped in or you don't have to be jumped out. Okay, let me do this right quick. That celebration at homegoing is this Saturday on the 10th. 1 o'clock, Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. Immediately following that service, there will be a march and protest from Shiloh to the Capitol. I dare any of you to attend, because it pains me right now, like DeWarren said, not one single council person reached out to this young lady who crying her heart out. She lost a 12-year-old son. He had a 12-year-old twin sister, a 9-year-old sibling, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Well, I mean, how do y'all feel? How do you feel? This has been 8 days. This lady have not had a phone call from a single council person. Not one. How do I know? Because I talk to her every day. Sometimes I call, she's bawling so much she can't talk on the phone. She couldn't even make the Concerned Black Clergy press conference we had this morning. Not one person reached out to this crying woman. I told you before, when a child suffers a traumatic loss for a loved one, personally a mother or a father, once they get older, they start experiencing mental issues, eventually commit suicide. This lady is struggling with her 9-year-old twin daughter. The mother has to take sedatives just to try to sleep. It's sad. It is sad. I would call names that I won't at this time. We will be marching from Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church right after the service on Saturday. And when you all go home, you'll see it on the news from the press conference with the concerned black clergy. God put this on my heart years ago when they first signed those laws. I was in Dewey McClain's office. We are protesting these stupid gun laws. Dare you to show up. It's about saving our community. A 12-year-old kid who was killed is only a catalyst of what's going on. Yeah, we're celebrating his life. However, we are protesting these idiotic gun laws that the governor and the state legislature have passed on this community. Y'all think y'all saw George Floyd situation? Wait till Saturday. Because I've asked the churches to go into all these schools and join us. Every church in Atlanta. We're going to show up and show out.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Trust me.
Next will be Catherine Cole, followed by Victor Tate.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to comment a little bit about the tree ordinance. My name is Catherine Kolb. I work with the Citizens Group on revising the tree ordinance. I wanted to say that I very much appreciate all of your concern and work on the tree ordinance. As you know, we've been working very hard for about the past 4 or 5 years now. The city spent hundreds of thousands of dollars gaining citizens' input. The overwhelming call is for better tree protection. Today, only 2.5% of Atlanta's tree canopy is protected in parks. That's a very small amount. Outside of our parks and in our neighborhoods, essentially not one tree is fully protected from clear cutting and grading as a part of the development process. Today, builders and developers often pay as little as $5,000 for an acre of cut trees. That actually, when you do the math on that, the city is losing about 90% of fair market value of the cost of the trees that they're losing. As someone mentioned a minute ago, twice as many healthy trees were cut in 2022 than in 2021, so we're experiencing exponential increase in tree cutting, and nearly all of the trees that were cut are being cut in the development and the redevelopment process. Almost all of these are being cut for non-affordable homes. Responsible developments, architects, and industry professionals all know that we can do better, we can build great homes, and we can protect our trees at the same time. It's a myth to believe that we have to choose between them. We can do both. Good builders are doing that all the time. The recently proposed amendments from the Planning Department are mostly positive, but they only make extraordinarily small positive changes, and none of those amendments that have been recently put before you address any of the substantive issues. There's no tree protection, no change in the recompense fee, none of that's included. So moving forward, and you may vote these amendments forward, but we ask you to work with us quickly and early in the new year and to vote forward additional amendments that truly serve the public good and protect more of our best trees, even while we build a better city. I'd like to thank you all for your work on this, and it's been a great afternoon, and wish you all very happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Final comment today from the public will be Victor Tate.
Good afternoon, Council. Again, my name is Victor Tate, and I am a proud son of this city and a graduate of its public schools, and a proud graduate of Morehouse College, and pastor of First Mount Pleasant Baptist Church, where we stand on the tradition of not just those who profit from poverty, but those who stand in line with the tradition of Dr. King, who suggests that the conscientious preacher is one who has both a Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other. Today, I am before you asking that you all would consider this legislation that has come before the council, presented by Councilwoman Keisha Waits, the citywide curfew ordinance 22-0-1076, section 106-227 of chapter 106. What we are asking is that this proposed legislation would be pushed back for an amount of time that allows council members to be able to engage with stakeholders, parents in particular, particularly at the KIPSOL Academy. I am a stakeholder there with some of the parents, and we are specifically asking this council and these members to engage these stakeholders, because while the curfew certainly has its opportunities, it's a heavy lift, and we want to be sure that the community at large is engaged and stakeholders have the opportunity to be a part. Of course, you all know that Master Charles, Zion Charles, who has been referenced several times today, was a student there. And so we're on the front lines and really want to be a part of ensuring that the relevant conversations are being had, stakeholders are being engaged, and this council is reaching out to those persons to have those conversations. We're leaving a letter with the council with information, mine and some others, and we'd love to hear from those council members to engage these constituents as you all consider this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all the members of the public who have come today to be a part of public comment. We will now move to the report of the Journal.
Good afternoon. I, Vanessa Walden, Deputy Municipal Clerk of the City of Atlanta, hereby certify that the action minutes of the November 21st, 2022 regular meeting of the Atlanta City Council are true and correct.
If there are no changes to the minutes, I would entertain a motion to adopt. Motion to adopt by Councilmember Wan, seconded by Councilmember Hillis. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt the minutes? We do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to the adoption of the minutes? Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent on the motion to adopt.
Unanimous consent would be 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries. Next, we'll move to communications.
First communication is 22C5183, a communication from Chief Procurement Officer Jadid Majur submitting the October 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2022 weekly contracts report to the Atlanta City Council and Clerk of Council pursuant to Section 2-1142 of the Atlanta City Code of Ordinances. Staff recommendation is to accept and file.
Let it follow that course.
I'd like to take items 2 through 4 together, please.
Without objection, please proceed.
22C5184, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Mr. Claude Winstead to serve as a member of the Stakeholder Oversight Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Staff recommendation is to refer to Transportation Committee and Committee on Council. Number 3, 22C5185, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Ms. Jennifer N. Ide to serve as a member of the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, better known as MARTA, Board of Directors for the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 4 years. Number 4, 22C5186, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. Jacoby Zagaby to serve as a member of the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority Board of Directors for the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 4 years. All 3 items are to be referred to Transportation Committee and Committee on Council.
Let all 3 items follow that course.
22C5187, a communication from Mayor Andre Dickens appointing Mr. David Brand to serve as a member of the City of Atlanta Defined Benefit Pension Plan Investment Board in the category of Independent Chair. This appointment is for a term of 5 years. Staff recommendation is to refer to Finance Executive Committee and Committee on Council.
Let it follow that course. Are there any items for vetoed legislation for consideration?
There are no items, sir.
Thank you. There's one piece of unfinished business, 22-R-4521. It came before council last session. There was a motion that was adopted to hold in the breast of council. That brings it back forward in front of this body. Councilmember Faroki.
Yeah, this is a piece of legislation that I introduced with the support of several council members. It came out of committee, Transportation Committee unanimously with the support of the administration. This is a paper to extend the hours for which scooters can be rented from 9 p.m. to an end date of midnight. I held it after speaking with our police chief and have amended it. I think the substitute was sent around earlier today via email that would require that between the hours of 9 p.m. and midnight, that the number of scooters available would be 60% of what the operators typically have on the street. So we're reducing the numbers. We'll see how it goes. But they should allow for folks to get to and from work at that hour who use scooters. So I will move to approve. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I guess we'll need a motion to bring the substitute forward.
Yes.
Yeah, apologies.
Councilmember Faroki has made a motion to bring forth the substitute. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Juan. Is there any discussion on the motion to substitute? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to substitute for 22-R-4521.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 11 yeas, 1 nay.
11, Mr. Shook has said aye. 11 yeas, 1 nay. The motion carries. So, Councilmember Faroki.
Yeah, I will move to approve the substitute.
There's a motion to approve 22-R-4521 by Mr. Faroki, seconded by Mr. Juan. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Councilmember Bond.
Is it on? Thank you, Mr. President. Just a question of whoever can answer it. You know, since these scooters are going to be operating, presumably if this passes, more at night, have there been any adjustments or requirements made that the scooters themselves have more lighting attached to them? Has anyone discussed that at all? Or
Councilmember Faroki.
I can speak to it, though I don't want to jump in line in front of Councilmember Lewis if he would like to go first.
Just to speak to the question, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, so scooters can already be driven at night. You know, it gets dark now at 5:36. I cannot speak to each of the operators who operate in the city, though just by observation, they have included lighting that didn't exist a couple years ago, both in the front and in the back. We can certainly work with our DOT to work with the operators to continue to increase that if we think it's inadequate. But from where it started during the pandemic to where it is now, they all have a lot more lighting and reflective material.
no, I recall, but I guess as they're going to be operating more in the darker hours, that perhaps at some point, you know, they need to continue to evolve with more lighting, just for safety reasons. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
And as a person who rides a scooter, rides a Segway pretty much every day until my tire, I literally rode it into my tire bust. I don't think, my community hasn't been made, we've been talking a lot about safe streets, and I'm just thinking about like the safety of folks. As a person who rides it down hills, I've had people try to turn into libraries and almost get hit. And so I'm just thinking about the safety and the late nights with it, particularly when we're talking about, we got one council member who is actually putting forth a bill today, a paper today, to bring in curfews. And so right now, I'm just a little nervous with it.
Councilmember Faroki. Other discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-R-4521 as substituted.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 9 yeas, 2 nays,
9 yeas, 2 yeas.
and 1 abstention.
Mr.
sir.
Lewis, could you explain your abstention?
I thought on the same note I just said, I don't think that they're safe right now. And I know we've been talking a lot about safe streets in the city of Atlanta. When we're talking about opening up these the Segways and the scooters for later at night, I'm just thinking about safety. So
Unless there's
myself.
unless there's a conflict, Mr. Lewis, you have to make a yea or nay.
Okay.
How would you like your vote reflected?
No.
Please reflect Mr. Lewis as a nay.
The vote is 9 yeas, 3 nays.
Vote is 9 yeas, 3 nays. The motion to adopt as substituted carries. We'll now move to the consent agenda. Section 1, it begins on page 5 of the materials. These are items for second read. The appropriate motion is to adopt. First, let me ask my colleagues, are there any items that should be removed from the consent agenda, section 1? If there are no items, I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Moved by Councilmember Juan. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Amos. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt the consent agenda, section 1? Councilmember Westmoreland.
Mr. President, I need to remove item 29 on page 9, 22-0-1867, and item 26 on page 19, 22R4720.
Just to confirm, you said item 29 and item 26, correct? Both under CDHS?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other items to be removed? Any other discussion on the motion to adopt the consent agenda with these 2 items removed? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt the consent agenda, section 1, with the 2 items removed.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt the consent agenda carries. We'll now move to the consent agenda section 2, which begins on page 30 of the materials. These are items for first reading. The appropriate motion will be to refer, but first let me ask, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda section 2? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to refer. Moved by Councilmember Juan, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to refer consent agenda items in section 2? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to refer the consent agenda items, section 2.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to refer carries. We'll now move to the report of standing committees. First today is Finance Exec Committee, Chair Alex Wan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have no report this cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Zoning Committee, Chair Overstreet.
Thank you, President Shipman. This is our zoning committee report. Please turn your agendas to page 37. And we'll start with ordinances for second read. I would like to take items 1 through 6 as a block.
Without objection, please proceed.
Thank you. Number 1, legislative number 22-0-1582, case number Z-22-43, location 2285 Alvin Drive Northwest. The ordinance is to rezone from R4A, single-family residential, to MR3, multifamily residential. Number 2, 22-0-1704, case number Z-22-71, location Campbellton Road. The ordinance is to rezone certain properties along Campbellton Road between Butner Road and the city limits to support the recommendations of the Campbellton Cascade Corridor Redevelopment Plan. Number 3, legislative number 22-0-1728, case number Z-22-62, location 597 Auburn Avenue Northeast. The ordinance is to rezone from HC20C SA2BL, Martin Luther King Jr. Landmark District Sub-Area 2, Beltline Overlay, to HC20C SA4BL, Martin Luther King Jr. Landmark District Sub-Area 4, Beltline Overlay. Number 4, 22-0-1787, case number Z-22-66, location number 337 Georgia Avenue Southeast. The ordinance is to rezone from R5HC20KSA1, two-family residential Grant Park Historic District Sub-Area 1, to RLC HC20 KSA1, residential limited commercial Grant Park Historic District Sub-Area 1. Number 5, 22-0-1790, case number Z-22-90, location 581 Edgewood Avenue Southeast rear, 586 and 0 Ezard Street Southeast, and 21 Cornelia Street Southeast. The ordinance is to rezone from C2C BL Commercial Service District Conditional Beltline Overlay, C2BL Commercial Service Beltline Overlay, and R5BL 2 Family Residential Beltline Overlay to MRC3BL Mixed Residential Commercial Beltline Overlay. And number 6, 22-0-1877. The location is District 8. The ordinance is to extend the moratorium on subdivisions of 3 or more adjacent lots in District 8 for a period not to exceed 90 days. Items number 1 through 6 were favorable, so I move to adopt.
There's a motion coming out of committee to adopt items 1 through 6. It doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt these 6 items? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt items 1 through 6.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Opposed? 11 yeas, 0 nays.
Councilmember Bakhtiari, how would you like your vote reflected?
No, you didn't. Try again.
Councilmember Bakhtiari is an aye. Councilmember Winston? Councilmember Winston also an aye.
The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt the 6 items carries.
Thank you. We're moving to the next block, and I would like to take items number 7 through number 12 as a block, please.
Without objection, please proceed.
Thank you. Number 7, legislative number 22-0-1125, case number Z-21-79, location 0 Collier Drive Southwest and 0 Kildare Avenue Southwest. The ordinance is to rezone from R3HC20Q, single-family residential Collier Heights Historic District, and R4HC20Q, Single Family Residential Collier Heights Historic District to PDH HC20Q, Planned Development Housing Collier Heights Historic District. Number 8, 22-0-1235, case number Z-22-12, location 3537, 3541, 3545, 3549, 3555, and 3565 Roxborough Road Northeast. The ordinance is to rezone from R3, Single Family Residential, to MR3C, Multifamily Residential Conditional. Number 9, 22-0-1535, case number Z-22-65. The location is Downtown Special Public Interest District and Midtown Special Public Interest District. The ordinance is to update, modify, and revise certain provisions of Section 16-18A.015 and Section 16-8P.020 of the 1982 Atlanta zoning ordinance regulating off-street parking. Number 10, legislative number 22-0-1638, case number Z-22-50, location 1095 and 1121 Huff Road. The ordinance is to rezone from I-2BL, Heavy Industrial Beltline Overlay, to MRC3CBL, Mixed Residential Commercial Conditional Beltline Overlay. And number 11, 22-0-1729, case number Z-22-63, location 2695 Browns Mill Road, Southeast. The ordinance is to rezone from RLCC, Residential Limited Commercial Conditional, to C1C, Community Business District Conditional. And number 12, 22-0-1788, case number Z-22-67, location 930 Malden Street, Southeast. The ordinance is to rezone from MR4ACBL, Multifamily Residential Conditional Beltline Overlay, to MR4ACBL, Multifamily Residential Conditional Beltline Overlay, for a change of conditions. Items number 7 through number 12 were favorable as amended, so I move to adopt as amended.
There's a motion to adopt coming out of committee as amended, items 7 through 12. It doesn't need a second since it was favorable out of committee. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as amended? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt items 7 through 12 as amended.
The vote is open. Will all members please vote? The vote is closed. 12 yeas, 0 nays.
12 yeas, 0 nays. Councilmember Bond, how would you like your vote reflected? Councilmember Bond is an aye.
13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt these items as amended carries.
Okay, and last item for this block, number 13, 22-0-1494, case number Z-22-36, location 706-708 McDonough Boulevard Southeast. The ordinance is to rezone from R4 Single Family Residential to MR3C Multifamily Residential Conditional. Item number 13 was favorable as substituted, so I move to adopt as substituted.
There's a motion coming out of committee to adopt 22-0-1494 as substituted. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will all members please vote? The vote is closed. 11 yeas, 0 nays.
Madam Deputy Clerk, please reflect Councilmember Lewis and Councilmember Bond both as ayes.
Thank you. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt as substitute carries.
Okay, Council President, there is one item, held item, that needs to have council action, so I move to go into committee of the whole.
There's a motion by Councilmember Overstreet, seconded by Councilmember Juan to move into Committee of the Whole. Is there any discussion? We can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to moving in Committee of the Whole? Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent on the motion to move in Committee of the Whole.
Unanimous consent is 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. We now stand in Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Our item is number 22. The legislative number is 22-0-1665, case number Z-22-64. The location is 923 Springdale Road Northeast. The ordinance is to zone newly annexed property to the R3A, Single Family Residential Zoning District. Staff, ZRB, and NPU recommendations was for approval. I move to approve.
There's a motion to approve by Councilmember Overstreet, seconded by Councilmember Juan. Is there any discussion in the motion to approve? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to approve.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 12 yeas, 0 nays.
Councilmember Bond, I think you're an aye. Please reflect Councilmember Bond's vote as an aye.
Duly noted, 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
Thank you. So I move to exit Committee of the Whole.
There's a motion by Councilmember Overstreet, seconded by Councilmember Juan to exit Committee of the Whole. Is there any discussion on exiting Committee of the Whole? We can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to leaving Committee of the Whole? Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent.
13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. We are now exited from Committee of the Whole and stand back in regular session.
Great, thank you. And I move to adopt the actions taken in Committee of the Whole.
There's a motion to adopt by Councilmember Overstreet, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari, 22-0-1665. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1665.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries. Councilmember Juan.
Mr. President and colleagues, this was the last of a series of annexation papers, and 2 of which were on the consent agenda. Now that this has been approved, I'd like to make a motion to move all 3 post haste to the mayor's office for signature. The first item is 22-0-1664, which is on page 5, item number 1. Second one is 22-0-1666, which was on page 10, item number 21. And then this final paper, 22-0-1665, which was on page 45, item number 2. Motion is to move to the mayor's office post haste.
There's a motion to move post haste these 3 items by Councilmember Juan. I believe there was a second by Councilmember Overstreet. Is there any discussion on the motion to move post haste? We can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to moving these 3 items post haste? Hearing none, Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent on the motion to move post haste.
13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. I must apologize. I skipped over Committee on Council because my very sophisticated system of using sticky notes on my agenda failed me today. So, Chair Boone, Committee on Council.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please turn to your agenda for the report of the Standing Committee of Committee on Council. Mr. President, may I sound items 1 through 3? These communications were found favorably in today's meeting.
Without objection, please proceed.
Item 122-C-5176, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Mr. Sergio Mendez to serve as a member of the Atlanta Commission on Veterans Affairs. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Item 2, 22-C-5177, a communication from Council Members Marcy Carrier Overstreet, Councilmember Antonio Lewis, Councilmember Keisha Shawn Waits, reappointing Mr. Clifford Ice to serve as a member of the Water and Sewer Appeals Board. This appointment is for a term of 3 years to begin retroactively on November 7th and expire November 6, 2025. Item 3, 22-C-5179, a communication from Councilmembers Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron D. Amos, Jason Dozier, and Michael Julian Bond, Post 1 at Large, appointing Dr. Tony Burks to serve as a member of the Human Relations Commission. This appointment is for a term of 3 years. These items were found favorably. Motion to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt 3 items. They were found favorable in committee, so it doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt these 3 items? Hearing none, we'll move to, these are all 3 communications, correct?
Yes.
So we can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Is there any objection to the motion to adopt? Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent is 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays, the motion to adopt carries.
Mr. President, this concludes my report.
Thank you. Now we'll get back on track. Public Safety and Legal Administration, Chair Hillis.
Thank you, President Shipman. We have no report this cycle.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to City Utilities, Chair Shook.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item. It is 22-0-1844, an ordinance by Utilities authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Solid Waste Services Revenue Fund budget to transfer appropriations within the Department of Public Works from various line items to contractual obligation line items in the amount of $8,064,538 as approved under the code section cited here of the City Code of Ordinances and for other purposes. This comes forward favorably. There were 2 abstentions. I abstained because I wanted to hear a presentation of the companion paper that we heard subsequently in FEC. My motion is to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt coming out of committee 22-0-1844. It doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1844.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
That is all.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to Community Development and Human Services. Vice Chair Westmoreland will give the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the first item on our agenda requires a public hearing, so I will make a motion to open a public hearing.
There's a motion to move to a public hearing. It's seconded by Councilmember Juan. Is there any discussion on the motion to move into a public hearing? We can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to moving into a public hearing? Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent would be 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to go into a public hearing carries. We're now in a public hearing.
All right. Item number 22-0-1846, a substitute ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to amend the 2021 annual action plan of the 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan to accept an award of reallocated emergency solutions grant program CARES Act funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to amend the 2021 annual action plan budget to add to anticipations and appropriations emergency solutions grant program CARES Act funding in an amount not to exceed $1,750,161.20 for the purposes of supporting homeless assistance and homelessness prevention activities to mitigate the impacts created by the coronavirus pandemic and for other purposes. I do not believe there is anyone signed up to speak from the public, and if that is true, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Madam Deputy Clerk, is that correct? No one signed up from the public?
That is correct.
Okay. There's been a motion to move out of public hearing by Councilmember Westmoreland, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to move out of public hearing? We can do this via unanimous consent without objection. Any objection to moving out of public hearing? Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent would be 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to move out of the public hearing carries. We're now back in regular session.
All right, this item came to us with no recommendation on substitute pending the public hearing that we just conducted. So having done that, I will make a motion to adopt on substitute.
There's a motion to adopt 22-0-1846 on substitute. There's a second by Councilmember Juan. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
Next up, we have two items that we pulled from consent to fix account strings. The first one is 22-0-1867, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond amending 22-0-1669 to update the accounting stream as necessary to allow for the appropriations of payment to the Metro Atlanta Land Bank Authority and for other purposes. I will move to bring forward a substitute.
There's been a motion by Councilmember Westmoreland, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari to bring forth a substitute for 22-0-1867. Is there any discussion on the motion to bring forth the substitute? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to bring forth the substitute.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 12 yeas, 0 nays.
12 yeas, 0 nays. Councilmember Boone, how would you like your vote reflected? Aye. There's an aye for Councilmember Boone.
Thank you. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to bring forth the substitute carries.
All right, account strings corrected. I will move to adopt as substituted.
There's a motion to adopt 22-0-1867 as substituted. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1867 as substituted.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt is, as substituted carries.
Same situation. Next item is 22-R-4720, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Winston authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate housing trust funds to the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter in an amount not to exceed $600,000.00 to support the Community Foundation in furtherance of its mission of facilitating the actions necessary to support the relocation of residents of Forest Cove, including utility cost assistance, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer or his designee to make a donation from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. I will make a motion to bring forward a substitute.
There's a motion to bring forth the substitute for 22-R-4720 by Councilmember Westmoreland, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to bring forth the substitute? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to substitute.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to bring forth the substitute carries.
Account strings corrected. I will make a motion to adopt as substituted.
The motion to adopt 22-R-4720 by Councilmember Westmoreland as substituted, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-R-4720 as substituted.
The vote is open. Will all members please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt via as substituted carries.
Next up, 22-0-1049, CDP 21061, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 2590 Watkins Street Northwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. Committee recommendation is to file.
There is a motion to file 22-0-1049 coming out of committee. It doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to file? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to file 22-0-1049.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to file carries.
22-0-1143, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 131 Leslie Street Southeast from the single-family residential land use designation to the mixed-use, low-density land use designation and for other purposes. Committee's recommendation is to file.
There's a recommendation coming out of committee, motion to file. It doesn't need a second. 22-0-1143. Is there any discussion on the motion to file? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to file 22-0-1143.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to file carries.
Next up, 22-0-1829, an ordinance by council members Michael Julian Bond, Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron Amos, Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Mary Norwood, Dustin Hillis, Marcy Collier Overstreet, and Matt Westmoreland, as substituted by the Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the Atlanta City Code Part 2, Chapter 158, Article 2, to make several updates related to an ordinance administration, tree planting and protection, and use of tree trust funds, to amend Part 3, Land Development Code Part 15, Land Subdivision Ordinance, Sections 15-07.004, and for other purposes. This came favorable on substitute out of committee, 4 yeas, 2 abstentions. I will make a motion to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt coming out of committee 22-0-1829 as substituted. It doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1829 as substituted.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt as substituted carries.
Final item, 22-0-1878, an ordinance by council members Alex Wan and Amir Faroki to temporarily suspend sections 20-1008C and 20-1008D of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances only as they may be applied to short-term licensees or short-term rental operators that have not obtained a license, such that there shall be no authority to take administrative action or to impose any administrative penalties against short-term licensees or short-term rental operators that have not attained a license, to declare that the suspension of sections 20-1008C and 20-1008D of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances provided herein shall only be in effect through March 5th, 2023, and thereafter the suspension of aforementioned sections of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances shall automatically end, and beginning March 6, 2023, shall have no legal recourse or effect, and for other purposes. This came out of committee favorable with 4 yeas, 1 nay. The motion is to adopt.
There's a motion coming out of committee to adopt 22-0-1878. It doesn't need a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1878.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 10 yeas, 2 nays.
10 yeas, 2 nays. The motion carries.
Mr.
Out of the room.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Westmoreland. Finally today, Transportation Committee. Vice Chair Lewis will be giving the report today.
Thank you, President Shipman. The transportation report for today will be read. 2020-1837, item number 1, page 57, favorable on condition. An ordinance Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into an operation and maintenance agreement with Atlanta Airlines Terminal Company covering the operation and maintenance of certain facilities used to perform aircraft dicing located at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, waiving 21187 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinance and for other purposes. This item was favorable on condition. The condition requests the Law Department to provide a substitute to clarify the reason for waiving the code. The condition has been met. The motion is to adopt on substitute.
There's a motion to adopt coming out of committee on substitute. It's already been substituted. It was favorable. It was favorable on condition. I'm sorry. Are you bringing forward a substitute? Oh, you are bringing forward a substitute. Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to bring forth the substitute.
So move.
There's a motion by Councilmember Lewis, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari to bring forth the substitute. I'm assuming that everyone has a substitute. Good. All right. Is there any discussion on the motion to bring forth the substitute? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to bring forth the substitute.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 12 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
12 yeas, 0 nays with 1 abstention. Councilmember Winston, you want to explain your abstention to bring forth the substitute? Oh, it should be an aye. Could you please change Councilmember Winston to an aye?
Thank you. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to bring forth the substitute carries.
So So I move to adopt on substitute.
There's a motion to adopt 22-0-1837 as substituted. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt 22-0-1837 as substituted? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt as substituted.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt as substituted carries.
Number 2, item number 2, 22-0-1840. Item number 2, page 57. Favorable 4 yeas, 1 abstention. An ordinance by a council member committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to apply for and accept grant funding from the Georgia Department of Transportation for the 2023 Local Maintenance Improvement Grant for the purposes of resurfacing certain City of Atlanta streets in the amount of $4,563,776.09 and for other purposes. The item was favorable with 1 abstention. The motion is to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt coming out of committee. It does not need a second. 22-0-1840. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1840.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt carries.
Thank you. Item number 3, 220-1881. Item number 3, page 57. Favorable on condition. An ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki, Jason H. Winston, Byron Amos, Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Mary Norwood, Dustin Hillis, Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Antonio Lewis, Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, and Keisha Sean Waits, authorizing the mayor or his designee to accept grant award funds and amend the fiscal year 2023 intergovernmental grant fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations from the United States Department of Transportation, USDOT, for the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity RAISE grant in an amount not to exceed $900,000 for the funding of a planning study for the Stitch, and to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into agreements with the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, and the Georgia Department of Transportation for implementation of grant acceptance and participation for other purposes. This item was favorable on condition. The condition requests ATL-DOT to provide a substitute clarifying that ATL-DOT will be the appropriate city department, the account information, and that matching funds of $350K will come from the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District. The condition has been met. President, I would like to bring forth a motion to adopt on substitute.
So I'll entertain a motion to bring forth the substitute.
So
there's a motion to bring forth the substitute by Councilmember Lewis, seconded by Councilmember Wan. Is there any discussion on the motion to bring forth the substitute? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to bring forth the substitute.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to bring forth the substitute carries. So now I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt as with the substitute.
There's a motion to adopt by Councilmember Lewis as substituted. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt as substituted 22-0-1881? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Deputy Clerk, please open the vote on the motion to adopt with the as substituted.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt as substituted carries.
Mr. Chair, this concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lewis. That is all the reports of the standing committees. So we'll now move to personal papers for immediate consideration. We do not have any for immediate consideration today, so we'll move to personal papers that are to be referred. So I'll start with Councilmember Amos. Oh, Councilmember Vaughn, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we leave the Transportation Committee, I'd like to ask those who are impaneled there to make an inquiry at the next Transportation Committee meeting. A year and a half ago, the City Council approved the installation of 2 traffic signals, one at the intersection of Sunset and Boone and the other at Vine City and Boone. It's now been a year and a half, and those lights have not been erected. So if those who are on the committee can raise the issue with the department to find out what the delay is, as the author, as one of the authors of it, I would appreciate it.
Thank you. I would make that note for members of the committee as well as staff on that committee. Thank you, Councilmember Bond. With that, we'll move to personal papers for referral, and I start with Councilmember Amos.
Thank you, sir. AMS number 31589, a resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos, a resolution to sunset the short-term rental commission created by action of the Atlanta City Council pursuant to 22-R-3415 and for other purposes.
ALMS ID 31589 will be referred to the CDHS committee.
Items number ID number 31596, a resolution by council members Byron D. Amos, Andrea L. Boone, and Michael Julian Bond to establish a commission to determine an appropriate manner in which to honor Mr. William Finley, Coach Wink Fulton Jr., and for other purposes.
Items ID 31596 will be referred to the CDHS committee.
Items number 31635, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron Amos to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinance, Chapter 114, Personnel, Article 4, Civil Service, Division 14, Attendance and Leave, Section 114-418, Family Leave, to change the time off with paid for primary caregivers from 6 weeks to 10 weeks and for other purposes.
Items ID 31635 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Items number 31625, a resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos requesting the Mayor's Office of Violence Reduction to create and implement a biannual comprehensive crime reduction plan in the interest of promoting safety within the Atlanta city limits and for other purposes.
Items ID 31625 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Last one, Mr. President, items number 31613, ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to amend Chapter 106, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, Article 3, Offenses Against Public Order, and to add an unlawful loitering section which specifically prevents minors under age 16 years of age from loitering in the area as defined herein as the Tourist Triangle or the Restricted Monetary Solicitation Zone and for other purposes.
Items ID 31613 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee. Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you, Mr. President. I only have one paper today. Items ID number 31561, a resolution by You know what, Mr. Clerk? You're off my Christmas list from now until eternity. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and just confiscate this. Thank you. Items ID number 31561, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari and Jason Winston, a resolution authorizing the mayor, his designee, on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to apply for and accept local maintenance improvement grant funding from the Georgia Department of Transportation and an amount not to exceed $250,000.00 for the reconfiguration of Bill Kennedy Way between the Atlanta Beltline, East Side Trail, and Atlanta Beltline, South Side Trail, and for other purposes.
Items ID 31561 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Boone.
Items ID number 31624, resolution by Councilmember Andrea Boone, a resolution requesting the Commissioner of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study on LeConte Highway Southwest to determine the need for any safety improvements such as speed calming devices, reduced speeds or stop signs, and for other purposes.
Items ID 31624 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have Elms ID number 31614, a resolution by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, a resolution requesting that the Atlanta Development Authority, doing business as Invest Atlanta and Atlanta Housing, in consultation with the Department of Finance, conduct a cost analysis and assessment for the possible acquisition of property located at 303 Parkway Drive Northeast in partnership with the City of Atlanta for the development of affordable housing and for other purposes.
Items ID 31614 will be jointly referred to CDHS and FEC committees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few items here. The first one is ELMS number 31615, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing a donation of an amount not to exceed $13,500.00 from the District 4 carry forward account to the Atlanta Police Foundation to assist with the funding of license plate readers and surveillance cameras to be installed in Council District 4 for other purposes.
ELMS ID 31615 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Next item is ELMS number 31616, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Dozier requesting the mayor or his designee to reduce the speed limit on Oakland Drive Southwest from 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 31616 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Next item is ELMS ID number 31618, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Dozier requesting the mayor or his designee to prohibit parking on Farmwall Street Southwest from Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard to Glen Street Southwest and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 31618 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Next item is ELMS ID number 31608, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2023 general fund budget and the fiscal year 2023 capital finance fund budget by transferring an amount not to exceed $4,500,000.00 from the committed fund balance to the capital finance fund to anticipate and appropriate funds for the first year of contractual agreement RFP-S-1220275, supplemental staffing services with Nova Collaborative JV, a joint venture between Nova Engineering Environmental LLC and the Collaborative Incorporated, and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 31608 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
And my last item is ELMS ID number 31611, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into service agreements with subrecipients for an amount not to exceed $13,711,806.22, included in the 2021 Annual Action Plan budget, the 2020 to 2024 Consolidated Plan for the purpose of funding Community Development Block Grant Program, Emergency Solutions Grant, Coronavirus Program, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS Program for the purpose of executing various contractual agreements for projects that are assigned to the Department of Grants and Community Development and other departments of the city, and for other purposes. A 5-day public comment period and other public hearings required, and the public hearing will be held December 5th during the full council meeting. I think that was a typo on the...
ELMS ID 31611 will be referred to the CDHS Committee.
And then my last item is ELMS ID number 31609, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor to enter into contractual agreement for RFP-S-1220275, supplemental staffing services with Nova Collaborative JV, a joint venture between Nova Engineering and Environmental LLC and the Collaborative Incorporated on behalf of the Department of City Planning for a base term of 3 years and an amount not to exceed $4,500,000.00 each year of the agreement, with 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised at the sole discretion of the city. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the account listed herein and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 31609 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Faroki, are you ready? Okay.
And we do not have an ELMS number yet, but it will come before it makes its way to committee. A resolution by Councilmember Amir Faroki, Alex Wan, and Matt Westmoreland authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a project framework agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation and a project management agreement with the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District for the I-75, I-85 capping study, the STITCH, to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute all agreements related to the STITCH and for other purposes.
This paper will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Hillis.
Thank you, President Shipman. First paper is ELMS 31631, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis to waive Section 2-783H1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to authorize the settlement of all claims against the defendants in the case of Juzima Goldring versus City of Atlanta Police Officer Vladimir Henry et al. Civil action file number listed, United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, in the amount of $1 million. $1,375,000.00, authorizing said amount to be paid from account numbers listed, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the total settlement amount and for other purposes.
ELMS ID 31631 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Woodmere Drive Northwest between Donnelly Hollowell Parkway Northwest and Eleanor Terrace Northwest and for other purposes.
Helms ID 31619 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Helms ID 31627, a resolution by council members Dustin Hillis, Andrea Boone, Matt Westmoreland, Howard Shook, Alex Wan, Michael Julian Bond, Jason Dozier, Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron Amos, Mary Norwood, Liliana Bakhtiari, and Antonio Lewis to request and authorize the city auditor and audit committee to conduct a performance and financial audit of the Municipal Court of Atlanta from 2018 to present, to include but not be limited to budget, staffing, caseload and bench time per judge, number of administrative days, number and types of cases, amount of fines and forfeitures per each case category per year, number of failures to appear, number of failure to appear warrants signed and input into the Georgia Crime Information Center, number and type of cases bound over to state courts, an estimate of associated revenue losses from unresolved failures to appear and state court bindovers, utilization of pretrial intervention for each case type, and any other subjects the city auditor finds appropriate and necessary to assess the performance and financial status of the Municipal Court of Atlanta and for other purposes.
Helms ID 31627 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. That completes my report, or my papers.
Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, President. Elms number 31628, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Conley Road from Thurman Road Southeast to Old Conley Road Southeast and for other purposes.
Helms ID 31628 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms ID 31629, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, a resolution requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Macedonia Road Southeast from Ruby Harper Boulevard Southeast to Jonesboro Road Southeast and for other purposes.
Helms ID 31629 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms ID 31630, an ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis to allow a sidewalk waiver payment in the amount of to be deposited in the amount of the fund. The amount has not been decided yet, to be deposited into the District 12 Sidewalk Trust Fund for SD 21007. That's 130 Hilltop Drive and for other purposes.
Helms ID 31630 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms ID number 31617, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, Byron Amos, Matt Westmoreland, Jason Winston, Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, Alex Wan, Andrea Boone, Amir Faroki, and Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet and Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, a resolution urging the 118th Congress to reintroduce and pass the Youth Promise Prison Reduction Through Opportunities, Mentoring, Intervention, Support, and Education Act to fund and support programs and initiatives that will assess, develop, and implement evidence-based practices to deter juvenile delinquency, youth violence, and criminal street gang activity and for other purposes.
Helms ID 31617 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Favorite paper of the day. Elms number 31626, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, Liliana Bakhtiari, Jason Dozier, Alex Wan, Amir Faroki, Jason Winston, Michael Julian Bond, Councilmember Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Councilmember Alex Wan, Councilmember Matt Westmoreland, and Councilmember Dustin Hillis, a resolution requesting that the Mayor's Office of Violence Reduction and the Atlanta Police Department develop a program to provide firearm safety storage free of charge to qualifying citizens within the city of Atlanta to deter accidental shootings and reduce the theft of unsecured firearms and for related crimes and for other purposes.
Helms ID 31626 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Mr. President, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Norwood.
Elms 31620, a resolution by Councilmember Mary Norwood requesting the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Ridgewood Road Northwest between Paces Ferry Road Northwest and Nancy Creek Road Northwest and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31620 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Thank you.
Councilmember Overstreet.
All right, Elms ID number 31610, an ordinance by council members Marcy Collier Overstreet and Matt Westmoreland, an ordinance authorizing the city of Atlanta to transfer certain real properties located within the city, Fulton County parcel identification numbers 14008900050542, 17-013, 38000, 50160, 14-011, 8000, 50757, 14-015, 2000900057, 14-015, 2000900065, 14-0152-000900073, and 14-005-30009106, and DeKalb County tax parcel identification number 15143200007 to Atlanta Independent School System by quitclaim deed, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to execute such quitclaim deed and all other necessary documents to effectuate the intent of this ordinance to waive certain provisions of the Procurement and Real Estate Code, City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31610 will be referred to the CDHS Committee. Thank you. Councilmember Juan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have Elms ID 31549. Thanks, I'm done. A resolution by Councilmember Alex Juan authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of blank, all funds to be charged to and paid from fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed, and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31549 we refer to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID 31582, it's an ordinance by council members, all council members present, ordinance amending the City of Atlanta fiscal year 2023 budget to include an additional cost of living adjustment or COLA for all permanent full-time employees, excluding temporary, part-time, contract, and seasonal employees, and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31582 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Elms number 31633, an ordinance by council members Matt Westmoreland, Dustin Hillis, Amir Faroki, Antonio Lewis, Keisha Waits, Liliana Bakhtiari, and Jason Dozier, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $19,000 to Morehouse College to support the Larry Dingle Memorial Scholarship and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31633 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms number 31634, an ordinance by council members Matt Westmoreland, Byron Amos, Amir Faroki, Antonio Lewis, Keisha Waits, and Liliana Bakhtiari, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $9,000 to Morehouse College to support the Dwayne E. Hurd Memorial Scholarship and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31634 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms number 31632, an ordinance, a resolution by council members Matt Westmoreland, Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, Dustin Hillis, Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, and Michael Julian Bond, authorizing the creation of a study group to review national best practices and provide recommendations for the creation of an e-bicycle rebate program for the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31632 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Elms number 31622. A resolution by Councilmember Jason Winston requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Cherokee Avenue Southeast at Bryan Street Southeast an always stop controlled intersection to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31622 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms 31623, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Winston requesting the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Hamilton Avenue Southeast and Morley Avenue Southeast an all-way stop control intersection, to request the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms ID 31623 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
That is all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all the papers for today. So we'll move to general remarks. I'll take personal privilege at the moment. It is the last meeting of the calendar year, 21 meetings. And so as tradition, today is the day to announce committee appointments for next year. So I wanted to go ahead and do that so that everyone will know these, just for the public, these will not take effect until January. There is a committee week next week, so the committees will be as they have been all year. And then early next year, the new committees 2023 will take place. So if we can put those up on the screen. Okay, I'll just read them out as we pass them out. Let me just say that I'm deeply appreciative to everyone's service. I think this year has been very productive and efficient, especially with the number of new members and returning members that we had. It's been a very, very good year. I want to say a special thanks to all of the chairs who have served throughout the year and made each of the committees highly productive. I appreciate everyone's service. I took into account everyone's preferences and also just a general disposition that some rotation, not wholesale rotation, but some rotation is good for healthy council. So the committee membership for next year will be as follows. City Utilities Committee will be chaired by Councilmember Winston. The membership will include Councilmembers Bond, Boone, Dozier, Hillis, Lewis, and Shook. Community Development Human Services Committee will be chaired by Councilmember Dozier. Membership will include Council members Amos, Bakhtiari, Lewis, Waits, Westmoreland, and Winston. Public Safety Committee will be chaired by Councilmember Hillis. Membership will include Council members Amos, Bond, Boone, Lewis, Norwood, and Waits. Transportation Committee will be chaired by Councilmember Faroki. The membership will include Council members Amos, Lewis, Norwood, Overstreet, Waits, and Wan. Zoning Committee will be chaired by Councilmember Westmoreland. Membership will include Councilmembers Bakhtiari, Bond, Dozier, Faroki, Norwood, and Overstreet. Finance Exec will be chaired by Councilmember Wan. The membership will include Councilmembers Bakhtiari, Hillis, Overstreet, Shook, Westmoreland, and Winston. Committee on Council will be chaired by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Membership will include Councilmembers Amos, Boone, Faroki, Shook, Wan, and Winston. And we will continue with the Chairs Committee meeting on Mondays preceding each of the council meetings. Again, I want to thank everybody, especially the three chairs who are rotating through, Councilmember Shook, Boone, and Overstreet, who have done a wonderful job in their committees this year, and I look forward to the committees getting off to a fast start again next year. So with that, general remarks. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a reminder that tomorrow is Election Day. If you have not voted, please, please, please go and vote tomorrow. If you need help finding out where your voting location is, I'll be posting it on all of our social media and also at iwillvote.com. You can check out your local polling places, so please, please, please show up tomorrow and vote. And of course, have a happy holidays. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of announcements. I don't know if this was done at the beginning of the meeting, but I just wanted to give an update on our one of our alumnus, the Honorable Carolyn Long Banks. Her health is rebounding, though she's, still dealing with some medical issues. So she is taking phone calls. So if you've got a number, please reach out. And also, one of our former employees in the clerk's office on the near and dear to all of us, Ms. Pinky Rutledge, is also having some health challenges. So if you could reach out to her family and say, and the prayers always work. So please pray for her. And those of us of a certain age lost one of our dear child, one of the first friends we ever had on television, Mr. Bob McGrath of Sesame Street. He started out as one of the original cast members with Mr. Hooper, Gordon, Maria, and Luther Vandross. Most people don't know was a singer on Sesame Street that first season. He lived to the ripe old age of 90 years old and expired this weekend. And of course, the news that everyone has been waiting for, this week's HelloFresh will be at the Hosea Helps headquarters at 2545 Forest Hills Drive Southwest, 30315. That's this Wednesday, December the 7th at 3 p.m. So, of course, we're in this partnership with HelloFresh, Pratt Industries, and, of course, a dynamic local nonprofit, Second Helpings Atlanta, that does their own exemplary work in the food space. Every week, we distribute about 8,000 meals a week through our partners. And, of course, this will be in-person drive-up, walk-up, pick-up, and we couldn't do it without Elizabeth and Ofima Omalami and all the dynamic work that they do down there at their headquarters. And since we will not meet again, I would be remiss if I did not call upon best wishes for two of my little children. My daughter Lauren, who is my oldest, who is in her mid-30s, will celebrate her birthday on the 9th, and the baby in my family, the hungry bear, my son Skylar, will turn. He also is beginning into his 30s on December the 14th. So I want to wish them a happy birthday. For those who've been around here for a little while, know that they practically grew up in this building. So I don't think they watch the meetings, but we want to make sure that their birthdays are on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
And I just want to send prayers to the family of Cameron Jackson and Zion Charles, praying for justice for your family, and we're standing with you as a city. We know that things have happened, things have transpired, and we're trying our best to get better at the group project we're working on. So we're really praying for the families of Zion Charles and of Cameron Jackson, two young men who were murdered on 15th Street, on 17th Street Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first thing I just want to do is give my Vice Chair, Matt Westmoreland, a shout out. I think in the last 4 council meetings, I've had maybe one item to report out on, and today he had about a 4 or 5 page document that he had to get through. So I just want to acknowledge him and tell him I appreciate him. But more broadly, just want to let my District 4 constituents know that our 4th and final District 4 Town Hall of the year will be held this Wednesday. It will be completely virtual, 6 o'clock p.m. I would read off the URL, but check out our social media and check out all of our landing pages, and you'll find that information. I hope to see you there.
Thank you. Any other remarks? Hearing none, we'll take the adjourning roll call. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Council President Doug Shipman.
Present.
Council members Michael Bond. Matt Westmoreland. Keisha Sean Waits. Jason H. Winston. Amir Faroki. Byron Amos. Jason Dozier. Liliana Bakhtiari. Alex Wan. Howard Shook. Mary Norwood. Dustin Hillis. Andrea Boone. Marcy Collier Overstreet. Antonio Lewis.
Without objection, we will stand adjourned. Any objection? With that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.